And now Britain's Parliament will begin debating a bill next week to authorize the government to trigger the formal process of leaving the European Union.
Tuesday the 31st of January. Second reading of the European Union Notification of Withdrawal Bill, Day 1. Wednesday the 1st of February. Conclusion of second reading of the European Union Notification of Withdrawal Bill.
And now Leader of the House of Commons also said the bill will then be examined during Parliamentary committee sessions from February 6th to the 8th. Now, news of the rapid timetable has prompted anger from some Labour lawmakers. They say allowing only 5 days for debating the issue is a disgrace and shows contempt for parliamentary sovereignty. Meanwhile, the British government has published a text of the bill that will be presented to Parliament later. Legislation came after the government this week lost its Supreme Court case on whether it could start the formal Brexit process without the approval of the legislative body. And joining us now out of Bristol, Mr. Tony Gosling, investigative journalist. Hello there, Tony. Thanks again for joining us on the program. Now, parliamentarians got the voice they wanted on the Brexit, but then with some very extreme legal and time restrictions. Your read on this, please.
Well, I bet you most of the senior Conservatives are wishing that they triggered Brexit, this Article 50, the official letter to Brussels, the day after the vote, because they could it's quite possible for them to have done that, and then there wouldn't have been all these delaying tactics that there have been since then. In fact, you know, you look at the situation, it's a little bit like the financial crisis of 2008. The solution to that, dealing with the banks, has also been delayed. Dealing with the bailouts and effectively the crimes, the financial crimes of these banks who have been doing money laundering, all these kinds of things. There doesn't seem to be the ability to actually get stuck in and deal with these things. But finally, it looks like in March, by March, this will actually happen. I would say also that Gina Miller, who's brought the court case that's forced this debate in the House of Commons and in Parliament, is herself one of the hedge fund managers. She's married to one of the chiefs of the hedge funds. So these are effectively the elite who are expecting to have some sort of a concentration of power in the United States of Europe, that are finally finding out that this Brexit is going to happen. Brexit means Brexit, says Theresa May, but what does Brexit actually mean? We're now finding out, and the process is going to begin, I think, the sooner the better.
And Theresa May, she exudes a lot of confidence when she stands there and speaks about the Brexit, and she makes it sound like she's going to hammer out, or at least her administration is going to hammer out a good deal for the UK. How many people there actually share that sentiment, that optimism that she has?
Well, I think we've come into sort of unknown territory, haven't we, with Brexit, because nobody in the elites really intended this to happen. In fact, the Article 50 itself was written in the EU treaty, was written by Lord Kerr. Lord Kerr was up until quite recently on the steering committee of the Bilderberg conferences, which many researchers and spotters of the history of the European Union and also the political lobby of NATO will know is a sort of super elite. They're a kind of banking lobby and NATO lobby that have a lot of power. So these people only wrote a little tiny line in there, which was the whole point, I think, was that it was going to be to dissuade people. There was no planning done for Brexit, and that planning has started in earnest now here in Britain. And I think that there is a general optimism. You know why? And that's because the economic figures at the moment are good. We had lots and lots of doom and gloom saying, oh, the economy's had it, it's all going to go downhill if we go out of the European trade zone. But actually, the economy is, I mean, even though there's been no real change, the economy is picking up. The real test will be in March, when that letter goes in finally, to see how world markets react to that, because that might be the point at which you get some of these international financial people starting to punish Britain, because they don't this is possibly the first nail in the EU coffin, and there's a lot of people invested in that EU project who want to punish Britain for what they've done.
And you just mentioned it'll be the first time it'll be invoked, so it will be setting a precedent which puts all the more pressure on how it is actually handled and triggered. Thank you, Tony, for your input. Tony Gosling, investigative journalist, joining us out of Bristol.